very much. Isang maunang umaga sa ating lahat, pero yan ay biyaya ng Panginoon at ako ay bumabati sa inyong lahat. Pasensya na ako ay I've not slept a week for 24 hours. It's really a severe case of jet lag. I guess when you're aging, jet lag is worse. So Jerry and all of you, Attorney Aaron and Mayor Loren and Attorney Gia, and I really want to talk to all the LGUs who have since passed an ordinance or legislation to ban coal. How many are you in the country already? I think you should really be rewarded and awarded. Is it Osamis passed it? South Cotabato, is it true? Is it the province? Negros Oriental, Guimaras, Masbate, which else? And I wish everybody, I'd like to compare actually the pieces of legislation and see how it can be adopted into national policy. I have a 22-page speech which I hopefully will not have to read all, but I have the PowerPoint as well. What I will do is I'll ask each and every one of you to give my staff nominee your email addresses so that we can just email blast to all of you. I put it on my website or on Twitter. But I'd like to read salient portions of my prepared speech, which I believe is well researched. And let's go back to 2008. When the Renewable Energy Law was adopted, it represented, what did it use the light? We can open the light a little. Okay. Pero okay na yan, energy efficiency. Diba? Okay. Sige. Nakakita pa naman ako. Sige. I always ask the air conditioner to be put to 24 or 25 degrees, right? Because sometimes it's below 20, and I think the DOE is supposed to have a policy to tell all malls and public establishments to peg it at 25, because that's when it works now, because you can actually make it more efficient. Yeah. I guess the reason why they close this is because we have this, right? Would you rather see this or see me? Or whichever. Anyway, so it was December 2008 when we had a clear, decisive policy on the country's shift to cleaner and indigenous forms of energy, and that's the RE law. It was against a backdrop of escalating crude oil prices, which peaked at $147 per barrel 11 years ago. The DOE then ramped up its campaign for the adoption of the RE law. It believed then, hopefully up to now, that promoting the exploration, development, utilization, and commercialization of indigenous energy resources is a necessary and essential step towards achieving the country's energy independence agenda. It's been 10 years, and I'm glad that they're celebrating it. And let's not just celebrate and talk the whole day in this room, but to make sure that the policies enacted would actually be operationalized and utilized on the ground. So the RE law was designed to help the country achieve energy independence. I hope that's one question we will all sort out today. Do we actually have it? It took actually more than 10 years, 18 years for the RE law to be passed, but not without the protracted debates and policy mechanisms incorporated in the measure. It was hard 18 years ago, 10 years ago it was passed, just as is difficult now, to convince all the doubting Thomases, naysayers, on the importance of RE in the country's development agenda. Up to now, sometimes we feel that those charged with implementing the policy mechanism seem to want to continue the debate on matters already decided by legislators 10 years ago. At that time, the DOE did a hard sell on the importance of RE to the country. They said the RE measure was aligned with the government's twofold energy sector agenda, which included energy independence and power market reforms. Today, the government continues to espouse these goals, sometimes clothed in different words. Energy security, low carbon future, energy access, these are all buzzwords now, but they mean the same as the objectives we have laid down in the RE law. The DOE presented very strong justifications at that time. Its RE policy dubbed us 110, meaning it stands for doubling the RE capacity in 10 years from 4,450 megawatts megawatts in 2002 to 9,418 megawatts by 2013. It served as a critical pillar for the country's drive to clean energy and energy independence. The energy agenda then also sought for a reduction in coal imports by 20% in 10 years. The adoption of the RE law, it said, will help achieve these outcomes. So I challenge you also at the end of this forum to be able to check whether we actually were able to do this, but I will give you the answer before the end of my speech. As any reasonable person would expect, the passage of RE was supposed to be the pathway to higher levels of energy self-sufficiency, but performance indicators today betray the mixed policy positions of government on this matter. The government's energy independence agenda then aimed to increase the energy self-sufficiency level from 56.6% in 2005 to 60% in 2010. Today, our energy self-sufficiency level is down to 55%. This scenario can be quite disturbing if you know that in 2009, our energy self-sufficiency level was already at 59.5%. So I will no longer put all of these notes which are here. Let's just look at the numbers. 11 years, 2005 to 2016. The installed capacity of RE increased only by an average of 157 megawatts per year, from 5226 megawatts in 2005 to 6958, or an addition of 1732 megawatts in 11 years. It means a small 3% increase every year for 11 years. These figures present one glaring fact. We miserably failed in meeting our goal of doubling, as we had ambition to be, the installed capacity of RE. Ironically, while the RE law aimed to reduce the volume of coal importations, again, we ended up importing more. The volume of coal importation increased by an annual average of 12.8% from 1989 to 2015. 2015 to 2016, the volume of coal imports was even higher by 16%, from 17.3 metric tons to 20 metric tons. Installed capacities of coal power plants jumped by 87%, from 3,967 in 2005 to 7,419 megawatts in 2016. Another 2,000 or 10,423 megawatts of coal-fired power plants is in the current pipeline, and we have to put our resources together, our efforts and our energy to curb, if not totally eliminate this. This coal-dependent strategy creates stranded assets and consequently stranded costs our consumers will ultimately have to bear. RE's share in the power mix as of 2016 declined to 32% from 33.5% in 2005, while that of coal surged from 25% in 2005 to 35% in 2016. So the RE law in 2008 envisioned 18 years ago to spur investments in the country. But prior to the adoption of the RE law, investments in RE amounted to $2.3 billion. 2 years after the RE law was adopted, investments were down to $1.6 billion. 2016, investment levels were just close to the pre-RE law level at $2.6 billion. In real terms, 2016 levels meant less investment. So what am I trying to say? These numbers lead us to only one conclusion, that the country continues to heavily depend on coal-fired power and imported coal. We are advocates, and there are many of us in the country and in the world. And many in DOE, I believe, and the RE coalition, we waited for 18 years for the RE law to be adopted. 10 years since its adoption, we still continue to await full and firm and fast executive action on policy mechanisms, which I hope you include in the discussion today. The green energy option, the renewable energy market, the renewable portfolio standard, the RE trust fund, among others. So is there a reason to be hopeful that these will be implemented soon? Let's examine the Philippine energy plan We will see in the short term the DOE intends to review RE policy mechanisms. But what is there to review if the mechanisms have not yet been implemented? So the most intriguing aspect of RE law implementation in a country is arguably the absence of a clear and strong political commitment to develop and stimulate a healthy market for RE development. The IRENA, you know that very well, the 158 state intergovernmental organization, 158 member states. The Philippines was a founding member. It has a very pointed observation, and I quote them. It said, the Philippine government has given many private sector stakeholders mixed signals. It called for an increase in investments in RE, especially in the private sector. However, it expressed concern about the high capital cost of renewable energy and the variability of its supply. So these claims against RE as a high-cost alternative is actually inaccurate and misplaced. I say that such arguments are the most convenient excuse against the status quo. It has been shown by our own experience that RE can be a cheaper source of electricity generation than fossil fuels. Competitive bids have demonstrated this fact. Even the lowest bids from some RE companies, regrettably, do not guarantee a place in our power mix. So IRENA reported that the cost of generating power from onshore wind has also fallen by around 23% since 2010, while the cost of photovoltaic electricity has fallen by 73%. Other estimates even indicate that solar-powered electricity costs have declined by 90%, while the cost of wind power generation has fallen 50% since 2009. So, price comparisons by IRENA. What are these? Recent results of Philippine auctions show that onshore wind schemes are now costing an average of 0.06 per kilowatt hour dollars. Solar at a range of 0.05 to 0.10 dollars per kilowatt hour. Electricity generated by fossil fuels falls in the range of 0.05 to 0.17 per kilowatt hour. That's in dollars. So IRENA concluded that all RE technology should be competitive on price. Not in 2020, actually it's now. We don't even have to wait until then because the Philippines, we see the cost of RE has begun to undercut the cost of fossil fuels. So let me just quote some banner headlines so that even the uneducated and the naysayers will understand something so simple. Sweden will reach its 2030 renewable energy target this year. It aims 100% renewable energy production by 2040. Hawaii has enacted legislation to be RE, full RE by 2040. This October, London's historic and primary business district will be running on 100% renewable energy. I challenge the 8 LGUs to do that, similar to what Sweden, to what London is doing. Germany produced enough RE in the first half of 2018 to power every household in the country for a year. Portugal generated enough renewable energy to power the whole country last March. Costa Rica, country of 5 billion, but we can find a town, a province of 5 million, even half of Metro Manila, perhaps. So Costa Rica ran entirely on renewable energy for more than 250 days. Tokyo plans to install solar roads ahead of the 2020 Olympics. I actually saw a solar road last year already in an outskirt in France. They already will make it commercially viable within the year. Renewable energy sources account for 80.8% of electricity generation in New Zealand in 2015. It targets 90% by 2025. Leaders of 48 developing nations committed to work towards achieving 100% renewable energy supply in the respective nations at the climate conference in Marrakesh in November 2016. Developing countries invested more in RE from 2015 to 2017. China, Brazil, India were among them. So these are inspiring stories, such as that of the Netherlands National Football Stadium. This stadium creates its own energy and stores it in electric car batteries. It is capable of storing 3 megawatts of power, enough to charge 500,000 iPhones or supply 7,000 households in Amsterdam for 1 hour. Even private sector companies are shifting to renewables. The RE100, consisting of 138 of the world's largest companies, pledged to shift to 100% renewable energy in their supply chain. Apple, for one, recently announced that its global facilities are now powered by 100% renewable energy. This milestone includes retail stores, offices, data centers, and co-located facilities in 43 countries. These are not original. It is quoted here. I wish I would have so in case somebody questions why she verbatim, I have footnotes from my speech, okay, just to make sure. I therefore ask our policy implementers to observe closely enough so they can begin to appreciate the rise of renewables in many countries around the world, not as a symbolic gesture of support, enough of symbolisms, but because it is what we need today, not just from a social or ecological standpoint. Set aside the climate warriors such as ourselves, set aside environmentalism. It is also from economic and business standpoint. The UN Sustainable Development Goals called for the integration of the principles of sustainable development into country policies and programs. The RE is a strategic alternative to foster sustainable growth, energy independence, and economic security for the country. Following the Paris Agreement, several countries have adopted aggressive RE capacity installation targets over the next 10 to 15 years. China and India lead the way. Even ASEAN increased its RE targets by 155% from 9.4% share in primary energy source in 2013 to 23% by 2025. So those favoring the coal-dependent strategy might argue that RE already accounts for a higher share in our power mix. But let me again invite your attention to the fact that while other countries strive to increase the share of RE in their power mix, our RE share has, in fact, been declining over the years. This is therefore no reason to lay praise on our underperformance. And there seems to be a growing policy momentum for upscaling low-carbon energy options, including RE, in the developed and the developing world, and we should not and we cannot be left behind. So I already mentioned about the Philippine Energy Plan 2017 to 2040. It sets an objective of increasing the installed capacity of RE to at least 20,000 megawatts by 2040. That's a quote. There were statements attributed to Secretary Al-Usi that suggest an additional, hopefully an additional 7 or 20,000 megawatts shall be added to the existing capacities until 2040. Whatever the case may be, it must be noted that the awarded RE projects as of December 2016 already has a potential capacity of 16,948 megawatts, and I hope that my figures are accurate, and you may correct me if I'm wrong and update it based on this conference. Adding the current capacity of 7,082 megawatts leaves practically very little, if no room for further RE expansion leading up to 2040. So we ask this question: how much of the projected 43,765 megawatts additional power capacity between 2017 to 2040 is going to be sourced from coal and other fossil fuel-based power? What will the power mix for the roughly 65,000 megawatts being projected by 2040? If RE will account for only 20,000 megawatts of this, then we are looking at a further decline in the share of RE in the power mix, from 33.5 before the RE law was adopted, down to 30% in 2040. These are questions I'm posing before you, which I hope at the end of your conference today will have answers. So this is not what we envisioned when we conceived the RE law 18 years ago, or when we passed it in Congress 10 years ago. So researchers at Stanford and other US and European universities concluded in their study that most of the world's countries could run on 100% renewable energy by 2050. That's exciting. Based on the 2017 to 2040 energy plan, however, it shows that the Philippines will not be among these countries when we are gifted with all the natural resources available. For the country to enjoy the benefits of the rapid advancement and increasing affordability of renewable energy, the right decisions and action have to be made. Regulatory overreach should not be allowed to stifle innovation in the power sector. Having laid down the state of RE development in our country, I hope that this conference will help surface issues that has brought us to the situation we are in. Not just blaming or what went wrong, but actually what can be done so we can advise the DOE and those implementing, even in the private sector, what can be done to improve the situation. We cannot claim energy independence for as long as we rely on imported fuel, unless we are willing to embrace the reality that RE is a global phenomenon and we have to accept that is beginning to replace coal and other fossil fuels as a cheaper, cleaner fuel source. Our energy policies will continue to waver, reflecting the lack of political commitment that will consequently drive investors away. All this will bear upon our power consumers. There are key issues we need to examine. This symposium can provide a platform for discussions on these, including possible reforms in the following areas: automatic fuel pass-through provision in existing power purchase agreements, stranded asset risks presented by the overbuild of coal-fired power, which will make it a stranded asset which will be passed on to the poor consumers, regulatory risks, grid infrastructure challenges, which is already happening now, enforcement issues on the competitive selection process, factors hindering the development of an enabling environment for mini and microgrids, policy requirements to promote energy efficiency as a twin measure to RE development and utilization, among others. Finally, fair competition is a goal we seek to achieve in the power sector. We need to set our priorities, not just based on a limited view that if we build more power plants, regardless of its source, we can achieve development. If we are serious about meeting our goal of providing access to energy for all, we need to look at our future. This is what other countries are doing. Thus, it is a lot easier for them to embrace the reality RE is the energy of the present and of the future, and that its development should begin, not tomorrow, but now. Effective energy planning cannot be limited to the narrow confines of a single grid, a single country, a single city, a single sector. There is a need to broaden the country's energy options in ways that will allow us to integrate RE into the power system. So I invite our policy implementers in the private and public sector, in the executive department of government, to consider this. Instituted policy frameworks provided by law should be integrated into our energy plans. Energy planning should not be done in isolation of policy design and formulation, as well as sustainable development planning. If we want to be technology neutral in our power development approach, we need to cast out our misplaced notions on RE. Otherwise, our limited understanding will cloud our ability to meet our goal of achieving energy independence. We should wake up to the reality that coal and other fossil fuel investments will become stranded assets, the cost of which our consumers will ultimately have to bear. Eliminate barriers that hinder sustainable development, including policy and energy planning uncertainty. There is no single solution to our power sector challenges. Give consideration to standalone solutions, including mini and microgrids, particularly that we have severe grid infrastructure limitations. And define clear targets for distributed RE alongside our broader electrification targets. It is not enough that we set capacity targets until 2040 based on average annual growth rate. We need to define how best to meet the target by adopting complementary measures. We cannot just focus on one measure whose time has clearly come to pass. So with all these inputs, which I will email to you so that you can print your hard copies or even use it in your 8-hour conference today, I wish all of you a productive symposium and hope that it will be productive in the sense that you will actually give not just policy recommendations, because we already have policies in place, but to find the solutions on slow and ineffective executive action so that we can make both the public and the private sector implement the RE law faster, quicker, and make it more effective. With that, thank you very much and good morning to you.